Go.
Okay. Hello everyone in Arcotsigo land. Today we're going to make a jack-o'-lantern mask. We're going to do the first session of it. It's going to take 2 sessions. We have a whole bunch of this newspaper torn up into pieces about palm-sized or smaller. We have a bunch of Elmer's glue with some water in it, just a little bit of water to thin it out. See that? If I shake it, if you can see that a little bit. So that's nice and thin, so we can dip our newspaper into that and put it on the balloon. We have our balloon in this Maxwell House coffee holder just to keep it from flying away, so that if I am not touching it, it's going to stay stable. So you guys can choose to do whatever you want to use for it, but this is what I have chosen to use. So we will start by taking the pieces of paper about your palm size or smaller. We're going to take them and dip them into the glue. Don't be afraid to get dirty, because you're going to have to get dirty in order to make this mask. So I'm going to dip that into the glue and put that right on. We're only going to cover about the front third of the mask about. So we're not going to cover the whole absolute balloon. If you wanted to make more than one mask, you could do that, but we will not be doing that. So we're just going to dip the paper into the glue. Make sure the glue is all over the paper. Yep. Get really dirty and slop that right onto the balloon right there. So you can see that if I show it to you. Okay, so that is starting to pull that balloon down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold it with my other hand. Yep. So we will cover those up. And as you keep on going, you'll figure out new ways to do it or ways to make it easier for yourself. So then you just take that and cover up the balloon. Yep. And we will tell a couple jokes during this. In a minute or two, I'll have a joke for you. So, nice Halloween appropriate joke, that is. If I can keep this thing from flying away on me here. See, even when you think you got it all perfect, it's not going to work always the best. So I'm going to use this. Get that in there. And it shouldn't take you too long to cover up this balloon, because there isn't going to be too much area that we're covering here. So what we want to do is cover the area we are covering really, really well with multiple layers. You're going to want 2 or 3 layers of this newspaper here, so that when you are done, your mask is nice and thick. Okay? So we're just going to keep on dipping this stuff in the glue and covering this mask up, or this balloon up rather, okay? And don't be afraid to take your hand and cover that and move that glue around, because it'll make it spread a little easier if you need to do that. So don't be afraid to get a little dirty. It's always fun to get a little dirty here and there, if you enjoy it. All right, so time for the first joke. Why don't skeletons ever go trick-or-treating? Because they have no body to go with. All right. So as you can see, I'm starting to cover up the front of the balloon. And it goes pretty quickly. So this shouldn't take you more than 20 or 30 minutes to do if you're going slow-ish. If you're taking your time, it might take a little longer, but that's okay. It's good to take your time too. So what you want to do is just make sure that is all being covered nicely. Sometimes you might have to turn it upside down in order to keep it from sitting, keep it from running away. Now we're covering up little pieces, little bits at a time here. Okay. And I know that sometimes the bigger pieces will seem to work faster, but you want to keep your pieces about the same size. You don't want them to be too different size, because it can make it won't be very strong. You want it to be pretty strong. So And you just keep on covering up the mask, or the balloon rather. And you'll notice as you go, you can start to see that it starts to get clear, that you can start to see through the newspaper as it's drying or getting wet, more wet with glue. So that's good, so that you know you have a good amount of glue on there. Now this balloon is starting to run away from me, so I'm just gonna hold it because, you know, no matter how you plan for these things, they never actually work the way you want them to, so you always gotta be ready to do something different, kind of. So. You don't have to put anything on your balloon before using this, because once you're done, tomorrow when it's all dry, you can just pop the balloon when taking the piece of paper off. If you have enough glue on the top of your balloon, you can actually take it and wipe it like this and just use some paper that doesn't have any glue on it yet, like I'm doing, to save some of the glue. Make it go a little longer, which is something we try to do these times when we're having hard times. Okay. Sometimes you need a little bit of glue on there. And then you can just put it on there and move it all around. Like that, see? Yep. So we'll just keep on going with that. Sometimes I take the glue and I wipe it onto the balloon first and then I put the piece of paper on, and it's easier. It kind of spreads it. It's like painting it on with a paintbrush without having the paintbrush. So you'll figure out which ways you like to do it, and you'll have little hints along. You'll figure out your own little hints along the way. Yep. And if you're someone who doesn't like to get dirty, this project is probably not a good idea for you, because you really have to be willing to get your fingers pretty gluey. Hopefully it's not getting all over your shirt and stuff, but if it does, that is part of the project, is getting dirty. So hopefully you're wearing a smock if you want, or got an apron or some sort. And then if you realize, like I just did, I didn't use any glue on that last one, is because there's more than enough glue right on this right now that I can spread it around and use it without needing to add more glue to it. So I'm getting close to having my first layer done. Okay, so it'll look somewhat like this. If you're using newspaper, it should look somewhat like this. Okay, I'm going to use a little piece to cover this bottom part. And as you add more to it, it'll become stronger once it dries. So if you have 4 layers, it'll be stronger than 3. If you have 2 layers, it'll be stronger than 1. So something to take into consideration when making it is how thick do you want your mask. This mask is going to be relatively normal thickness, so it's only going to be probably 2 layers. This first layer is pretty much done. So I'm going to maybe round it out and make sure it's round enough or it's big enough for my head. Hopefully it will be. I'm going to put my mask on a stick so I don't have to wear it, because we're already wearing masks a lot as it is, so might not want to wear another one over it. So, and as you figure out the last few shapes of your mask, you can start to do your second layer. Once you've got that done, I'm getting close to getting ready for the second layer. So, that. So we're going to need another piece down here. Down in the blue a little bit. Right there. And you might decide that you want to make your own glue out of flour and water. You can look that up on the internet and make your own flour water mix that will be just the same as any glue. Should be just as good, if not better maybe, because sometimes that stuff seems stronger. And then as you see, I have enough glue on this right now, so I don't have to use any more glue. I can just keep on adding more pieces to it. Okay. And the more pieces you add, like I said before, the stronger it should be eventually. So once we got the shape pretty much hammered out, then we should be good for this part. Sometimes put a little glue on top of it. And then once this is all finished and covered the size you want it to be, you're going to want to let it sit out overnight, maybe for a day, so it dries pretty well. And then what you can do the next day is grab the mask, and you don't really have to pop the balloon, but you can pull the mask off of it, and that might actually pop the balloon. So which is okay. This balloon is only going to be really used once for this. So if you don't want to pop your balloon, you might not be doing the right project. That's okay, because I'm sure there's more balloons to blow up. So let's see, we have a couple more pieces to put on the one side. So we can get a little more space over here, covers a little more. Sometimes I dip my fingers in the glue in order to wipe that all around it. And you also have to realize that when you're doing this project, your fingers are going to start to get all really floppy and stuck together. And if that's something you really don't like, you might want to wear a pair of gloves, or you might want to have someone help you who wants to get dirty. Because if you are someone who doesn't like to get dirty, this project is probably not a good idea for you. That's probably something you should know before starting this. Hopefully you haven't already started it and you don't like getting dirty. Because if that's the case, I think you might not want it to go all the way through it. But that's okay, because there's always projects to do that you don't have to get dirty for. So just this one is not that one. So, and as you can see, my fingers are starting to stick together and stuff. So you can tell that the glue is working. So take some more glue and put it. Sometimes you just paint the glue on with your hands. We're going to end up covering up about, probably going to look like about a half of this mask or a third of this mask about. Yep, so we got a little bit more room to cover up. And then once we're done with that, we will put our mask in the window for the night and get back to finishing it tomorrow. We're going to paint it and put some eye holes in it and have a mouth painted onto it, although the mouth won't be opened. At least on this one it won't, but you might choose to make your mouth open. So, all right. Sometimes you got to add a little more glue to it just to make sure it works. Make sure it sits nice. Just glue to that balloon in there. So I believe that is about as big as we need it to be. So now what we're going to do is put a second layer on real quick. So that's about the right size. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take my fingers, I'm going to move this glue all over the front of it, and we're just going to add a couple more pieces to it to cover up that front part. Okay, so that glue should be pretty good right now, so you shouldn't need too much more. What you want to do is you want to take your fingers with that glue and kind of paint it on there, okay? And that should make it all nice and ready to accept some more paper sticking to it. There we go. And we're just going to make that front a little bit stronger by adding another layer to it. But really, you can do as many layers as you want. You could just do one layer if you want. This is not a pass or fail or graded assignment. This is just, if you're having fun, then you win. We all should have fun with this. There's really no stress to be had with this one. Yeah, it should be pretty simple and enjoyable activity, especially if you like getting a little dirty, because this is the activity for you if you like to get a little dirty. This is the perfect activity for you. So that's pretty good. So now we're just gonna add a couple more pieces to the top here. And then I'm gonna have to go ahead and say that we are gonna turn that off and let it dry for the night. Okay, and then tomorrow we'll come back, we'll get together and get our red and yellow paint mixed into orange and get our black paint so we can paint the eye parts and the mouth part, which I said, if you didn't notice before, I'm gonna cut the eyes out, but for the mouth, I'm gonna leave the mouth on so that we don't have to worry about it. Especially now with the virus and COVID and stuff, it's probably better for us to have the mask closed. I don't know, it's probably up to the person really, it doesn't matter. I don't think it makes a difference, I guess. So, just wiping that on there, making sure it's strong. Okay. We're gonna put a couple more pieces on and then I think we're pretty good. So, all right. A couple more pieces here and I think we're gonna be finishing up here in a minute. And if you see any parts that need a little more glue, just take your fingers, dip them in the glue and wipe it on there. There's not really too many ways to go about doing this. You just gotta get it on there and hopefully it will be strong enough to stay for a little bit. Yep. If you need a little glue, like I said, just take your fingers and put that glue right on there. That should work pretty nicely. All right, so now we have that much of the balloon covered, okay? See that? So that's gonna create a nice size for a mask that will be about my head size, okay? So that should be pretty good. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put that in the little holder there and we're gonna put it in the window or wherever it's safe for a day and let it sit. And then tomorrow it should be pretty dry. So lastly, if you wanna go over and make sure any of your pieces are not coming off of the paper, off of the balloon, because you wanna make sure it's pretty strong. So take any of that extra glue that you have and wipe that over it to make sure that that glue is really sticking to it so that it's really creating a solid piece, okay? And I'll put one more piece across the top there. It should cover up the last little bit that we need. All right. So right there. That should be almost enough. So I just have to finish this little piece here. And then it will be golden. All right, so I got a finished piece there. So that should be pretty good. All right, so there we go. There's your start of your mask. You got your balloon blown up, okay? All right, it's a little bigger than I had planned on, but that's good because it gives me a little more room to work with because my head is really big. So I think that's it. Thank you guys for staying with me and we will come back and finish this up tomorrow. All right?
Miguel, this is Tina. Hi. Good. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Two get down to 8. And hopefully Wendy's coming back at the end of this month.
And then,
I planned for
and then
that.
tomorrow when I do it, I'll probably pull up against the wall a little more so I can use the hairdryer.
Yeah.
So I press M. Oh, that